Godzilla minus one. It's just so beautiful. I just can't help myself to not mention it when talking about a Godzilla movie that more or less is Kong the New Empire x some Godzilla. Now I'm not going to go comparing these two movies yet, but want to focus in on Godzilla x Kong the New Empire. And to save time, I'm just going to refer to the movie as the New Empire. Anyways, before going into it, I did not have a good expectations for this movie, and I was worried that it was going to be worse than Kung Fu Panda 4 and Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. But to my surprise, I'm not making a villain analysis talking about how awful Shimo or Scar King is, but instead I will actually be praising the introduction scene of the Scar King and Shimo. So it proves once again that I can actually like something, and that whenever I see a movie, I'm not going to immediately call it mid, because that's what brings in the views, and name my video the exact same thing over and over, but I'm just talking about a different movie for my videos. So let's begin with this. Spoilers for the New Empire, please come back later after you watch it. I personally think that to help you understand my views on the Monsterverse, I can really quickly review all of them. Godzilla is mid, Kong Skull Island is good, Godzilla King of the Monsters is peak Monsterverse. Not gonna sugarcoat it, but I despise Godzilla vs. Kong. So going into the sequel to the movie I already dislike made me a bit worried I was wasting my money. And don't get me wrong, Godzilla vs. Kong is a fun movie, but my problem is how absolutely soulless the rest of the movie is. Sure, I can see the detail they put into the great and bright visual effects, but the human side of the story ruined the movie because, like, what? Basically, to sum it up, I think Godzilla vs. Kong is a fun movie, but it's bogged down by being junk food of a movie. So coming out of the New Empire, I gotta say, it was a fun movie, and yeah, sure, it's another junk food of a movie with a not-so-great human story that had me feeling like nothing. There is the big redemption part of the movie, and that's the Scar King. Now, the Scar King, I will say, is a very interesting character, but for most of the movie, he isn't really in it. It only briefly shows up to destroy the base in the beginning of the movie. Now, you might be wondering if this is the introduction I'm talking about, and my answer is no. It's not, because, to be completely honest, I'm making a guess that this is the Scar King, because it could be any ape of his. Just because they left the paw print doesn't mean anything, that it is him. It just could be a follower of his. What I am referring to is the scene where the Scar King meets Kong for the first time. The sitting position he is in, with just the eyes glowing and his silhouette, is something that, honestly, when first seeing it, made me come out of my scrunched up position in my really comfortable chair and lean forward towards the screen. There's something that is very menacing about it, and how blankly he just stares into the screen, and the assertion of dominance he portrays that is above everyone working for him is actually immaculate. How he has his own little back cave with the guards making sure he is untouchable, but then he springs to life and jumps towards Kong, showing how even though he is smaller than Kong, he isn't afraid to get up close and laugh in his face, this got me really interested, because the Scar King is not as tall as Kong, and it's not because of the camera angle, it's because he is generally smaller than Kong. What is so intriguing is how unafraid he is to just look him up and down, even when Kong has a big axe that he could easily use to kill him. So we have established one thing so far in the scene, and that is the Scar King is not afraid of competition. Now, before the fight even happens, I gotta say, I'm not the type to gasp at stuff that seems pretty predictable, but I swear, when the Scar King kicks the father of Mini Kong into the lava, like, I don't know why I was so surprised. Maybe because they cut away from that argument, and then all of a sudden it just happens. Like, if you blink, you miss it, but I can't believe I gasped. But I also felt really bad. Although I didn't fully analyze this part, I think that is pretty self-explanatory that although I can't show a clip of it, this shows that the Scar King is brutal and unforgiving for something that is so small. Now let's get on to the fight. During it, the Scar King almost immediately takes the upper hand since he slices Kong's hand, and shows it's not going to be an easy fight for Kong to win. Now, because you have all seen the movie, and I'm not going to describe it all to you, but I think something worth noting is how quick the fight goes on for, and most of the time it's the Scar King weakening Kong. But then we get to the end of the fight scene where they release Shimo. Now, this video is all about the Scar King, but this actually helps us get a closer look at how well his intro is. He releases something that is the tallest Monsterverse Titan to date, and is able to fully use this creature to his advantage, because he has the remote control spike thing. Now, I think if it wasn't clear enough that the Scar King is powerful because of his giant warehouse full of other apes, this shows how grand his power is, releasing a kaiju that is bigger than Kong and anyone else there. In the end, Shimo overpowers Kong, and in reality, the Scar King is the real one who has shown his dominance. So let's review this. The Scar King is not afraid of competition as Kong challenges his power. He is brutal and unforgiving after killing one of his own over something small and out of that poor ape's control. And his power over all these apes and Shimo reveals that Kong was never going to win this battle by himself. Now, this isn't the only thing the Scar King does throughout the entire movie. He does a lot more with Shimo, and basically has that entire fight in the end, which I personally think was really cool. But why did I specifically talk about the introduction scene and not the final fight scene? And that's because I feel like, so there's something missing out of a lot of new villain introductions. Like specifically talking about Kung Fu Panda 4 and Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, which for some reason is kind of ironic because the movie has Empire in its name, and it also has a big being that basically freezes things and freezes people. So I don't know what that's all about. Probably nothing. But so why this introduction scene is kind of important and kind of shows a lot more movies how a villain introduction can be is how, you know, in Kung Fu Panda 4, she literally just kicks someone down the stairs. That's her introduction. And in Frozen Empire, he puts on horns, spends 20 minutes on screen, and dies pathetically. Like, there's just no, substance to go with this. There's no reason to be afraid of either of these creatures. This can also be a lesson for upcoming movies of how to introduce a villain. Instead of having a weak intro with something that just doesn't make sense, is more for laughs or just maybe for shock value that just doesn't work, you can have an actual villain opening scene that shows that the villain is a bad person and that is not afraid of doing the things that he wants to accomplish. There are definitely more points that could have made this introduction sequence even better by maybe adding more of a mysterious element or something like that, but I think that although people can debate of whether he is an actual good villain is another topic, but I think after watching this video, you could see how on paper his introduction sequence is something that greatly shows how menacing of a villain he is and could be. Stay tuned for Sunday as I got another Godzilla x Kong video coming soon. Thank you everybody for watching. I'm Enchanted.